Hey, looks like we can get going. There. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Should we go ahead and get started?
Yep.
Hi, and welcome to today's live webinar with Synoptic. I'm Sarah Airgood, and I'm also here with Practice Director Genya Akselrod. And today we're going to be talking about CRM for your entire organization, not just for sales. So in today's world, customers value relationships above just the transactions, and CRM helps you connect and make those connections and track and leverage your customer information to keep that relationship with your customers healthy. And today we're going to talk about how it's not just for sales, that CRM is really a tool that can be used to manage any business process, any customer facing team, and a customer is also a relative term. So it can really be any relationship that you're managing as an organization in your day-to-day work.
And Sarah, in theory, it could be internal customers as well, right? So that the team's using them, right? So.
Yes, internal customers for sure. Or like if you're a trade organization, for example, your customers could be your members, right?
Mm-hmm.
So today we're going to cover why a consistent customer experience is so important in today's world and how a good CRM helps create that consistent customer experience. And we're going to go through a specific scenario where we're going to talk about how the sales team can use Dynamics, but also how it goes beyond just the sales team. And then we're going to talk about adoption and actually succeeding at CRM implementation the first time and why, like, there's some common problems with implementations and how to address them. So my name's Sarah. I'm a solution architect. I've been implementing Dynamics since version 4.0 for over the past 10 years. It's really my passion and what I've dedicated my career to. And more than anything, I really love helping customers and engaging with customers and learning about their business process and architecting solutions that drive value for their business. And I'm joined here with Genya Akselrod, who is my practice director for business applications CRM. And he is going to make a short introduction as well.
I can introduce myself. Thank you so much, Sarah. Yes, as Sarah, similar to Sarah, I've been in this space for a long time. I'm in the partner channel deploying the different Microsoft solutions. Mostly focused on this dynamic CRM application, and I've played every role from starting from the pre-sale sales side of it to deployment, post-go live, and how to support a post-go live implementation of the tool, right? And then everything between application engineer, developer, solution architect. So this webinar is coming from a place of experience and where we see CRM solutions succeed, where we see them get adopted by the organization, where we see that they provide value, how it's not just a CRM. We even go so far as to sometimes say, take the C, replace it with an X, right? Meaning X standing for anything. It's a framework to implement and design better processes using technology, right? So we're excited to do this webinar and tell you a little bit about what we've seen.
Awesome. Yeah, that's right. The CRM in XR can actually be XRM. So CRM stands for customer relationship management, but what we're saying is it's really XRM, and X meaning any variable. So any business process, any relationship that you have, you can manage that in Dynamic CRM. So let's start off with our first topic, which is why the consistent customer experience is vital and how CRM helps you achieve that. So one, CRM gives you access to the voice of the customer. So you're really getting um, your interactions in with your customer and tracking them all around one place. So if you're tracking a certain business process or instance of an interaction with a customer, you kind of have that all together. So your customer's feeling heard, right? And you're responding to your customer, and then eventually can get to the point where you're actually being more proactive in predicting some of what your customer wants and just really keeping that um, customer experience positive and the sentiment positive, which leads to promoting loyalty. So if the customer feels like dealing with you is easy and they feel like they're heard and their needs are met, it's going to promote loyalty. And it all goes back to communication. And CRM just really helps you get that all around 360-degree view of your communication with your customer. What all are you selling to them, or what all services are you providing to them, or what do you know about them? How can you communicate with them on a regular basis? How can you improve or proactively sell or serve or respond to your customer's need? And that's the next best action, right? So we don't want to just be like reacting, saying, oh, my customer's contacting me. We want to actually contact the customer. And with CRM and tracking all those data points around CRM, we can get a lot of visibility into that next best action, because we can see what have they bought in the past, or what have been their customer service issues or cases in the past, or who are the players involved. Um, so you can really kind of get into being proactive in reaching out to your customer with suggestions rather than responding to reactively requests from your customer.
Mm-hmm. And to add on to that a little bit, Sarah, right? With especially, I think an important point on this specific slide is calling out the digital age, right? And we've been talking about this forever. This isn't a new concept, but the concept has slightly changed with what's going on in the world today, right? Historically, getting the voice of the customer and promoting loyalty, specifically the points 1 and 2, it was much easier to do that in person, right? You fly out there, you take them out to dinner, you reach out to them because they're local, whatever, right? That's an easier act to do, right? Because you're interacting face to face. But with what's going on in the world, that's a lot harder to do. So we've been seeing a lot of customers reaching out, and they needed a way to kind of continue that sales cycle and continue that relationship building. And how can technology really help them do that, because they don't have another option, right? So that's where a platform like this also provides a lot of value when you're kind of preparing for potentially unexpected events that may affect your business.
Yes, and it's really accelerated lately over this past year with the need to do things remotely. So we've really seen an increase in demand for needing to have this kind of system where you can interact and track those interactions. And Microsoft is also responding to that need and that um, like accelerated transformation with the Teams integration that's now available with Dynamics 365 CRM, which is really cool.
Mm-hmm.
So it looks like we have a poll launched. So we'll wait to see what kind of responses we get on the poll. Okay, so our poll responses, it looks like 2/3 of you have never used CRM and 1/3 have experienced a successful CRM. So that's amazing. So if you've experienced a successful CRM, we're kind of preaching to the choir on some of these things because you get it. Like you know what it's like to be able to work with a system where you have what you need at your fingertips. And if you've never used CRM, maybe you're working, just trying to get by on old ways of doing things or based on spreadsheets or legacy systems, and you're wanting to get into the next level. And sometimes you just have to do things for as long as you can because you have to. But then there becomes a certain point where you really need to invest in a system to leverage some of the potential that you have as an organization. So let's go on to the customer experience and how the CRM can help create that consistent customer experience. So CRM is a lot more than just a sales engine. You can literally build any process into dynamic CRM. So all kinds of businesses and verticals and ways that you're managing relationships and communications, nonprofits, retail, field service, all of those things have all of those modules offered by Dynamics. And you can also build custom solutions. So basically, Dynamics 365 is like a customizable database. You can build your own tables and relationships and business logic. So it's so much more than just a sales engine. And by making a solution that fits to your business and implementing that, then instead of like just reacting to try and do your job on a daily basis, and like get the information you need or produce the reports you need, those things are just already done. And then that frees up your bandwidth to be more proactive. So when you're reactive, you're saying, oh my gosh, I need to do these, I need to get this information, I need to get these reports. And it's harder to get, you're doing some things manually or you're just trying to keep up. Whereas if you have those things more at your convenience on demand, then you can be proactive because it frees up some of your headspace in your efforts. And then on the next level, like say you're a manager, instead of managing and saying, okay, I need you to get me these reports and I need to meet with you to get this information to see when you last talked to these people, you also have that management aspect at your fingertips in Dynamics. So you're not having to, when you're talking with your team, you're not talking about the minutia and the basic things that you need, right? Like forecasts or reports on sales or reports on open issues or time to resolve issues or customer questions, new leads, anything. You're really able to coach them instead because you already can see all that information based on the data that's in the system and the reports that are available to you on demand in real time. So it's all about freeing up the time that you're spending tracking down information, running around trying to get information or organizing things in Excel or all these disparate systems or like not even having a system, and kind of putting it all in one place where everybody can see that you want to. Everybody can see what's going on, see for themselves. So then when you're a manager, you're having these conversations, you're coaching this person saying, oh, I see you have these 10 opportunities in your pipeline. Wow, these two look really great. Let's talk about those, or let's focus on those or drill into those, rather than the whole conversation being like, hey, I need a forecast report, right? That's just already done. So you can talk about more about ideas and less about the just day-to-day work. And with all that data, you can also get insights into patterns and forecast out, right? So if you have your, for example, you have your current caseload and how many cases you have open and how long on average it takes you to resolve a case. You can start reporting on those things. Anything that you're doing in the system, you can report on. For example, if you want to manage like a customer relationship for your account managers, people who are supposed to manage your current customers, and you want them reaching out to certain customers on a certain frequency, and you want to measure that. You want to know at any given time, when was the last date that this customer has been reached out to by the account manager? Or you want to forecast out, like, when should that account manager, like, what is that account manager selling this quarter for that customer, or for this quarter for each month, and break things down. So it gives you the ability to start thinking about and asking those questions, rather than like you're just trying to put your forecast together. Because like that's so much like putting the forecast together is the number one thing that I see sales teams spending the majority of their time on. It's like the bane. So, and I know forecast can mean a lot of things, right? In a case, it can mean in case management and service, it can mean your current caseload or your expected caseload or time to resolve, and kind of getting work into the right work streams. So having all the information at your fingertips, you're able to really see into patterns and forecast out for needs, and see what's happening at a higher level, rather than just, once again, we're being proactive versus reactive.
And I think a big piece of the forecasting is because you're using the tool, right, week over week, month over month, year over year, you're going to see as you're creating your forecast for the following quarter or following, year, a big way we create our forecast is what's been done in the past, and what we've seen happen across, the folks selling and that specific customers. Well, all that data is going to be in a single pane of glass, right? It's a tool that the team is using to get their job done, and it's a tool that also happens to let you report on it, right? So it's a win-win for the both teams, because we're making the people who are working in it, we're making their life easier because they don't have to use multiple, no more swivel chair concept. Everything's in one place, and because they want to use the tool, you can forecast out easier based on whatever patterns are being created in the system, whether that's certain SLAs that are being met or not met, and seeing what realistic timelines are, whether that's certain customers buying products at certain times of the year. Just seeing patterns you would never be able to see unless all the data was put together in a single report. Well, the tool is the Dynamics platform is the tool that puts all that information in a single pane of glass, and then it gives you very simple ways to consume and utilize that data for whatever needs you may have.
Absolutely. So with Dynamics, when we talk about sales, I know this presentation is how it's not just for the sales team, but let's just talk about sales for a second. With Dynamics CRM, you have this process-driven sales cycle. And that same process driven cycle can also apply to other types of business processes, such as case initiation, like a phone call, to resolution. So there's this process-driven cycle with sales that starts with a lead. So it starts with one record. Then if that lead's qualified, it can become an opportunity and an account prospect. And then if that opportunity is won, then it becomes a sales order or a one opportunity, and the opportunities close. And that's the forecast, is your collection of opportunities. But along that way, we have all these records that are related to each other, because ultimately when we have a customer, we don't just have one opportunity with them ever, right? Like a lot of times we're dealing with our customers over time. We're trying to convert our customer initially from a prospect, but then we're also trying to like keep selling to them over time. And so Dynamics has process-driven sales cycles for that, for lead to sale, from customer, exist opportunities for existing customers, from phone to case for case resolution, and it can even be for account onboarding or training. These processes can span multiple objects across the system and can guide you through, okay, at each step of the process, what should I be doing? what should I be doing at each step? So it's guiding them through that process. So it's really helping and assisting the user with what they should be doing for any given business process. And you're doing it without having to go from one system to another. So that whole process, that lead to sale process, can be done in Dynamics without a swivel chair. And that's what gives you that 360-degree view to fully serve your customers. It gives you easier access to reporting and the analytics you need. And then you can have these conversations with the sales team that are better, where you're not talking about just like, come on, guys, I need you to get me your forecast. Or come on, like, we need this information for a new prospect. You're not having to do that because like the system's kind of guiding them through what information is needed at what time, and prioritizing the key customers and key opportunities, or the important cases or the important accounts to interact and build relationships with. So when we can get into analytics, then we can actually make guesses based on past activity. Um, so there's insights for sales and sales assistant, and there's AI builder, and those are some different options or functions that Dynamics and the Microsoft stack has to. AI builder is Power Platform in general, but basically you can take your data and analyze it. Either you can analyze it through Power BI and reports, or through AI builder, like you can actually build models that analyze the data for you and pick out trends. And so what that means is we can say, okay, um, for all these orders, they bought product A, and there's a 20% chance that they also are going to buy product B. Or sales actually go up on this certain day of the week or during this certain time of the year. Or um, you can also see like year over year. Okay, so if you're talking about looking at your past activity versus today, and you see that an account is up or down, right? If an account's down, you may say, okay, why is that happening, and try and address it. Or if it's up, you may say, okay, we need to really pay attention to this account and make sure that we're engaging at this next level with them. And the really great thing about being on Dynamics is it's all like that Microsoft experience that you're used to. Almost everyone uses Outlook. There is an app for Outlook, Dynamics 365 app for Outlook, that seamlessly integrates your Outlook with this Dynamics 365 CRM. So when you're in an email, for example, you can track it to a particular record in Dynamics. And if you've already tracked the record, or Dynamics matches it with an existing record by email address, it will actually preview you or show you information in line on that email about that record. So for example, if I had my app for Outlook up and I had an email from Genya, it might pop up there and show Genya's contact information and his title and company. And if I was working a case with him at that time, it might have a little list of the open cases that I have with Genya. So it just really makes that access to information and the adoptability and usability so easy, because it's so easy to get information out and get information in to the system. And this AI assistant, I had mentioned that earlier, this AI assistant. So say that I had emailed Genya like a week ago, and Genya still hadn't responded. This smart AI assistant will pop up with a card on my dashboard, or if I'm looking at the account or contact on the account or contact form, and say, hey, you sent this email a week ago and there still hasn't been any response. Do you want to follow up? Or it'll also remind me if I have an opportunity that missed its close date, or a case that is past the SLA. So going back to this Microsoft platform and this adoptability and usability, the Dynamics CRM tool has a really awesome built-in query builder called Advanced Find. And you can literally query any table and its related tables, pull in columns into the report, put whatever query criteria you want, and build a view on the fly. And it's easy to do. Um, and you can also filter at the column level. Like if you're looking at a view in the application, you can really easily just say, okay, I'm going to filter this column and filter that column out. And then there's also charts that can tabulate data and visualize data for you that you can create also with configuration. So you can create all these views and charts without having to engage developers. You can actually configure this. Super users can create their own personal views and personal charts and personal dashboards. And in addition, of course, you can do all of that at the system level and assign it role-based as well. And any attribute is reportable. So going back to that advanced find where I talk about literally any table in the system, I can query to return results, and then I can define query criteria based on that entity as well as its related entities. So if I wanted to find a list of accounts where the primary contact has red hair, if I have the hair color of contact in my contact and I have the accounts in there, I can report on that and I can say, give me those accounts specifically. And that's just an example. And there is a really robust security model out of the box where you can organize access to records based on depth of access for your organization and your organizational model. So say you have like a um, different territories and regions and things kind of roll up and nest under each other, you can build that security model so that people can only see what they should be seeing. If they should only see their accounts and not somebody in another region, then we can do that. And it's all just configuration. It's just a built-in security model where you're just building the roles in the business units correctly and everything just works together. So it's configuration. And we also have management hierarchy level reporting. So if we want to do reporting based on the manager and not just on the secure, like the business units themselves, and we want to say, no, we really need to do it based on whoever that person reports to, not based on whatever business unit they're in. It's just another security model available to us at our disposal. So we have two really strong models of security that we can employ. And the idea behind security is that people can only access what they should and need to access, makes it simpler for everyone for visibility purposes and also for control of access to information. And when we talked about before about that 360-degree view, it all goes back to that single application. So this single app that we're building with all of these relationships and objects in it and visibility to it in the reports and charts and views that are needed. And it's just one license. And what it ends up being is CRM just pays for itself. So when you're talking about an investment, it's more about what CRM is going to contribute than what it's going to cost. Because you're going to have more sales, you're going to have better outcomes. That's going to lead to a financial improvement in one way or another, whether if it's sales or whether it's increased volume and better relationships. That's going to help you fulfill your mission as an organization, whatever that mission is. Um, and all of this can be implemented with low code enterprise level application. So I keep saying configuration. You can do an entire CRM implementation, even a custom one, even one that has custom business processes and needs with configuration. There's so much you can do without doing any code whatsoever in this application. It's really cool. And as a non-developer, I really appreciate that because I can do a lot of really great, cool things to help make customers' lives easier without ever having to engage a developer. And this whole experience, the familiarity of working with Microsoft, exporting to Excel, working in line with Outlook, configuration versus code, it leads to quicker onboarding, easier to just get people in the mix of things. What's going on? What customers am I working on? What opportunities am I working on? What are my cases? What are my activities? And so forth. Okay, so the person who answered that, the person or people that answered that they have been a part of an unsuccessful CRM implementation, I'm wondering if any of these reasons are what you encountered. I'm just curious about that. Um, but we have some common reasons why CRM adoptions fail. And so we're just going to take some time and discuss those here. So in some places where we go in to help a client, sometimes they may have a bad experience with a past CRM adoption. And from our experience, it's these reasons. So number one is lack of communication. So it's all about communication. CRM systems are to help increase and make communication easier. So if you're trying to implement this system and you're not communicating with the business and you're not understanding the process, you're not confirming understanding, you're not really being clear about the objectives and the tasks at hand, then there's going to be issues. So it really comes down to making sure that there's a meeting of the minds and a clarity and a simplicity to what we're trying to achieve. So when we're talking about lack of communication and understanding the business process, that can lead to number two, which is the lack of functional requirement understanding. So if you make everything about the app, to me, that's a lack of communication because you're just communicating and you're making things about the wrong thing. Communication is important. Like an important part of communication is prioritizing the message and prioritizing what you're trying to communicate about. And ultimately, the number one most important thing is understanding the business process. So if you don't understand the functional requirements, which are based on the business process, you don't understand the business process, then you're going to have a solution that does not work or where you don't understand even what you're trying to achieve, which leads to low user adoption. So you put something in place where you didn't fully understand the business process, therefore it doesn't meet the need of the users because the functional requirements were wrong, then your users aren't going to adopt it because it's not helpful to them. Like at the end of the day, we're trying to help people. Like that's all we're trying to do. We're trying to help them do their jobs easier, get the information they need easier. That's the key. So if we can't make people's jobs easier and we can't give them the information they need, they're not going to adopt the system. And if there's no coherent strategy, right? So going back to being focused on those key things, like knowing what are we trying to achieve here and tying it back to the business. It all needs to go back to the business. Number five, focusing on technology. So what are we trying to achieve? Focusing on technology, not people, not a good idea. Because ultimately the technology can do it. Doesn't matter what the app is, like you can do anything, right? It's focus on the people, focus on the process, focus on the goals, what needs to be achieved, and then the technology will rise to meet it. Every time it will. But if you start out with the technology and put the technology in front, you end up just like with this square peg, round hole where you're just like trying, and then not only do you end up where you're trying to like fit something in to where it doesn't fit, it's like you also don't understand. Like, first thing, when you're trying to understand a client and understand a business process, is you don't even think about the solution. Just understand the needs, understand the process. So that's number 6, running it as an IT project, not a business project. So we like to run things as a business project. So it's business first. So we're helping to make your businesses and process better. We're trying to make your day-to-day better. We're trying to help you grow. It's not an IT project. The IT is just the tool. And then finally, use it as a big brother. So earlier when I was talking about user adoption, we want to make people's job easier. We want them to feel like the CRM is serving them in the way they need it. And so if you go in and you have leadership just kind of like pushing it down and saying, oh, we're going to track you and we want you to enter every little detail of every little thing you do all day into this, it's not going to work, right? Because ultimately, people don't enter data in all those fields. They don't feel confident. They don't feel like it's for them. They feel like it's for management, right? People need to feel like they can own this tool and it's for them and it's the first place they want to go every day to see what's on their plate. So, no big brother. Think of it more as a tool. So, succeeding at CRM adoption. So, here's some ways to counteract and to help avoid some of these pitfalls that we just talked about. So, internal stakeholders, appointing some internal stakeholders as subject matter experts who have the power to make decisions, people who know your business process well, who are organized, who can help communicate the needs of the business to the project team, and having a communication plan. So, there needs to be regular communication. So not only regularly scheduled calls, but also like a communication cadence, like weekly status reports. And there's communication plans internally for the internal project team, and then also the communication plan with the client. So from our perspective, we have communication going on both sides, of course. And then strong training in UIT is so important because a lot of times when we're dealing with these implementations, um, we've got a lot of diversity in the user set. We've got, just like in our poll today, we got people who have been a part of successful implementations. We've got people who have been a part of unsuccessful implementations. We got people who've never seen CRM before. We got people who are really proficient at using different apps, and we've got people who are maybe not so techy. So having the strong training in UAT and making sure that there's a plan in coordination with the client to push information out and provide the training and resources that are needed for the end users is important. And then with UAT, which stands for user acceptance testing, I just want to say that we would do that before we would ever go out to a wider group of users. So that's another way to really succeed is go through that UAT process really strong before you put it in front of the wider group of users for training. Because then there's confidence, right? We're not perfect, we may find some issues because that's life, but we're coming on really strong with saying, we really think we've resolved everything and we've really thoroughly tested it. And so now we're going to go ahead and transition into the training. And you have to have that top-down support. So to get people, you need the management and the leadership's support of the project, of course, financially, but also from a morale perspective. And by giving those internal stakeholders on the team, so that top leadership who appoints those internal stakeholders, by giving them power to make decisions and own pieces of the project and communicate with the team implementing the solution, you're going to get them to own and champion the system too. And in turn, those people become your super users and your power users who can support the additional people on your team post rollout. And of course, we can support as well. And then finally, when we talked about making the job easier, and that being a good thing, and we don't want to make the job harder for people, their day-to-day job. So if we're improving the user processes, people are going to use it. They're going to want to go to the CRM and say, it's easier for me to do it this way than the old way or the non-existent way. And that's what we do. We make it easier. All right, so now we're going to give a little bit of an overview of Synoptic, and I'm going to let Genya jump in on this one.
Sure, thanks. Thanks, Sarah. So yeah, Synoptic, I'll focus more on the dynamics practice side of it. So we're an all around, do all kinds of, different roles in technology, whether that's managed services, product development. We have a custom application, we do security, infrastructure, we do all of that. But on the consulting side, specifically around the business applications and the dynamic side of it, we have a large team. We have a team of over 200 consultants who are working in the dynamic space, whether that's in Dynamics CRM or other Dynamics products like F&O and BC, right? We have a global presence. We're a global delivery team where we have offices across the country as well as Canada and then also in parts of India. And we've touched, we have hundreds, the company itself has 1,200 clients and over 800 employees. And, in general, so we've touched every industry, and even specific niche industries that you can think of. And this is kind of what we do. We live and breathe this technology. And we are passionate about utilizing it to make your business processes better. As you can see on the right-hand side of the screen here, we have different certifications from all of our different partners and in different compliances, ranging from being a gold partner, which we're very proud of, from the Microsoft side of it, all the way to different, like I mentioned, different certifications, ISO certifications, and different newspaper agencies selling this for top provider. So it means a lot to us. It means a lot for everybody to join the call today. We appreciate it. If you have any questions regarding your CRM journey, please reach out. Thanks, Sarah.
Thank you, everyone. I really appreciate you joining today, and I hope that you learned something.